You wake up to headlines about unusual naval activity near Taiwan. By evening, flights are rerouted, markets are halted, and words like blockade and escalation fill every screen.
Lots of people ask whether we are already in the first stages of a World War III.
This is an attack warning. I repeat, this is an attack warning.
Let's discuss how a war between America and China could actually begin. For decades, the United States and China have moved toward each other in slow motion, one as an established global power, the other as a rising one. Both depend on trade, shipping lanes, and access to technology. Both watch the Pacific as the main stage. The U.S. maintains alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines, along with a security commitment to Taiwan. Bases, carrier groups, and patrols give Washington a constant presence from Hawaii to the first island chain. China looks at the same map and sees something different. It sees foreign forces close to its coast, disputed waters in the South China Sea, and an island, Taiwan, that leaders call a part of China that must be brought under control. It builds ships, missiles, and air bases to shift the balance. The danger lies in the geography. The Taiwan Strait and nearby seas are narrow, crowded, and thick with military activity. Jets cross near each other. Warships and Coast Guard vessels pass at close distance. Risky intercepts and sudden course changes have increased in recent years. In any conflict, there is no clean line between fronts. Naval engagements, air campaigns, cyber operations, space assets, energy, and finance would all be tightly linked, with escalation measured in hours instead of months. The most likely spark is not a surprise barrage, but a move Beijing can present as legal and limited. Chinese authorities announce a temporary quarantine around Taiwan, framed as a way to stop foreign military support and protect stability. Within hours, Chinese Navy and Coast Guard ships start stopping and inspecting commercial vessels headed for Taiwanese ports. Some are ordered to turn back, others are told to anchor and await clearance. The message is clear without being called an invasion. This does not appear from nowhere. In the weeks before, there may have been another collision near a disputed reef or a near miss between fighter jets over the Taiwan Strait. A Taiwanese or Allied aircraft could go down after a risky intercept, with each side blaming the other. In the first hours, Beijing issued statements with legal and historical claims that these waters are under Chinese authority. Foreign ships are told to request permission, follow assigned lanes, and avoid certain areas for safety. Washington faces a narrow set of choices. It can send warships and aircraft to challenge the quarantine and risk escalation, or rely on diplomacy and sanctions while Taiwan sits under pressure. On television, you see images of gray hulls facing each other in tight waters, analysts arguing, and officials on both sides insisting they want calm, while each hour brings more movement. Once the first shots are fired, the crisis stops being a legal argument and becomes a regional war. A U.S. destroyer or an Allied frigate moves in to cross the quarantine line. It is warned by radio, then harassed at close range, then fired on. Return fire follows within seconds. A ship or aircraft takes a direct hit. There are casualties, and video of smoke and fire appears online almost at once. At that point, neither side can claim this is only a police action. China responds by declaring exclusion zones around Taiwan and parts of the South China Sea. Ballistic and cruise missiles strike Taiwanese ports, air bases, radar sites, and air defense systems to weaken Taiwan's ability to receive support. U.S. forces and some Japanese units answer with precision strikes on Chinese launch sites, radar stations, and ships tied to the blockade. Carrier groups move, submarines close on key sea lanes. Air squadrons disperse to bases in Japan, Guam, and northern Australia. Regional governments hold emergency meetings. Japan, Australia, and the Philippines weigh treaty obligations and decide what support to offer. Some grant wider access to bases and airspace. For civilians in Taiwan, life changes in a day. Sirens sound. People are told to shelter. Ports close. Fuel and food lines form quickly. Internet and phone service still work, but with delays and outages. Nearby countries see canceled flights, diverted shipping, and civil defense messages. There are no mass evacuations yet, but anxiety is clear. In the United States, you watch coverage of ship losses, missile trails, and burning depots. Officials repeat that this remains a regional crisis. Markets swing as leaders urge people to stay calm. This is the phase where the fighting is far away, but you still have time to prepare quietly at home. But wait a minute. If you want to be aware of World War III and its risks, make sure to subscribe to the World War III Files for more in-depth analysis and real-time updates. As the fighting continues around Taiwan, the war widens into less visible domains. On both sides, cyber units shift from probing to active disruption. Their first targets are military networks, logistics systems, and satellite control links that keep ships and aircraft coordinated. Some attacks spill over. Routing at major internet hubs slows or breaks. Port management systems in Asia and the United States freeze or reboot. Airline tools and cargo tracking platforms show errors. For most people, these look like glitches, but they are part of the same contest. In some regions, power grids and mobile networks see short outages. You may find your phone working 1 hour and failing the next, or your banking app timing out more often. Large platforms might go offline for part of a day. News feeds fill with claims that states or companies are under attack, with some confirmed. Above the clouds, both sides test tools aimed at space assets. GPS signals over parts of the Pacific are jammed or spoofed, disturbing navigation for civilian ships and aircraft. Some communication satellites face interference, causing gaps in service. Neither side wants debris from destroyed satellites, so the contest focuses on blinding and jamming rather than destruction. Information becomes a battlefield. State media push stories that blame the other side for every loss. Social media is filled with edited clips, fake statements, and automated accounts amplifying anger. In both countries, pressure on leaders grows. No one wants to appear weak. For you, the lesson in this phase is simple. Treat digital tools as helpful, but not guaranteed. Keep some cash at home. Print key documents and important phone numbers. Limit time spent scrolling and lean on official alerts and trusted local sources. Remember that even short cyber disruptions can slow fuel deliveries and healthcare. Once shots are fired, the next wave is economic. It moves more slowly than missiles but reaches most countries. The United States and its close allies apply targeted sanctions. They cut Chinese access to advanced chips, software, key banking links, and some energy deals. Beijing answers by restricting exports of rare earth minerals, batteries, and machine tools used in electronics and vehicles. Shipping routes feel the strain next. Sea lanes near Taiwan and through the South China Sea sit inside clear strike ranges. Insurers lift premiums. Some shipping firms choose longer routes. Others pause visits to high-risk ports. Energy prices jump, and higher transport costs creep into food and building supplies. Allies must decide how far to follow. Japan, Australia, and South Korea raise readiness, host more American assets, and argue in Parliament about limits. Treaties and planning pull them toward support, even as they fear becoming targets. Southeast Asian governments try to stay in the middle. They avoid sharp statements, yet Washington and Beijing press them for port access and airspace rights. In Europe, leaders balance trade with China against security ties with the United States. Some join sanctions. Others focus on mediation, while quietly securing fuel and alternate suppliers. For you, this phase shows up as money pressure. Fuel prices climb, grocery bills rise, imported items arrive late or not at all. Parts for cars and some medicines are harder to find. You may see more uniformed personnel at ports, rail hubs, and large plants. Your best move now is financial, not dramatic. You trim non-essential spending, build a small cash buffer, and buy key items early and calmly instead of waiting for crowds. Behind closed doors, planners on both sides talk about the line no one wants to cross. They know a full nuclear exchange would destroy both countries. Because of that, some plans quietly explore limited use. These options focus on remote bases, warships at sea, or a demonstration blast over empty areas, meant to signal resolve without hitting cities. Such ideas become more tempting after heavy losses. A carrier might be sunk. An airbase could be wrecked by conventional strikes. In the shock that follows, advisors may argue that one small nuclear shot at a military target will force the other side to stop. The danger is misreading. Early warning systems may see a launch, but not its size. Cyber attacks and damaged networks can distort reports. Leaders would have only minutes to decide whether a single missile is limited or the start of something larger. For civilians, this feels like an old fear in a modern war. You might see civil defense messages and more talk about sheltering. The practical point stays simple. Basic preparation for water, food, shelter, space, and communication helps in many crises, including nuclear-related ones. From inside a normal house, this war does not look like arrows on a map. It feels like steady pressure in daily life. News rarely stops. Television and online feeds show maps, ships, jets, and damaged sites. Your phone carries alerts about cyber incidents or fuel limits. Around town, you may see brief power or data outages, longer lines at gas stations, and shelves with some products missing. You notice more police and National Guard vehicles near bridges, rail lines, ports, and big plants. Social strain grows quietly. Group chats fill with rumors and dramatic clips. One neighbor shrugs. Another treats every story as proof that the worst has begun. You cannot steer the conflict, but you can manage your home. You keep a modest stock of shelf-stable food, clean water, basic medical items, and backup lighting. You pick an inner room or basement as a possible shelter and move key supplies there. You also change how you follow information. You check the news at set times, rely on a short list of trusted sources, and write down important instructions and contacts. On your block, you note one or two people who seem steady and practical. You share simple updates when it helps, but you set limits on what you can give or take on. The task is to stay informed without letting the war dominate life inside your home. No one can say exactly how a war between the United States and China would end, but some broad paths are realistic. One outcome is a negotiated pause after heavy losses. Fighting stops under a ceasefire. Taiwan's status shifts in practice, and new patrol lines appear across the Western Pacific. The conflict becomes frozen rather than solved. Another path is managed de-escalation. Over time, sanctions and cyber pressure give way to limited deals. Trade resumes in stages, with more checks and less trust. Military hotlines reopen so that future incidents are less likely to spiral. In the best case, large-scale nuclear exchange is avoided. Even then, any limited nuclear use would leave long-term marks on health, the environment, and politics. Crises like this show how connected the world is. They also show that quiet preparation and clear thinking at home still matter when large systems around you are under strain. If this conflict begins, you will not decide strategy in the Pacific. You will decide how prepared, informed, and calm your household is when the wider world stops feeling stable.